Yes, it's people, and welcome back to another video on the Bridge YouTube channel where we bring you all things Chelsea. I'm your host of the most Bridge Nation here today to give you Chelsea transfer news. As always, as you come in, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. Helps me out and helps channel out of the day as well. Listen, hope you're doing well. Hope you're all having a wonderful day today. Much appreciated for all of you guys being here as always. I actually wasn't even planning to do a stream today. I'll be very honest with you, bro, because again, I didn't really thought there was going to be that much Chelsea incoming news. The club clearly will focus a lot more on their outgoings. And as such, I thought, you know what? Let's let the club continue to do what they do and the outgoings and everything related to it. And as such, I felt, nothing to say. And I listen, and credit to my number one mod, EPL Turf. There is no need for me to speculate. As I said before, man. Speculation Nation, we don't need to do that right now because at the end of the day, we don't speculate on this channel. We just report the news. That's what we do. You know what I mean? No need for inferences, none of that sort of thing. So in general, I just didn't think I would be needed to make any more news of this regard. So end of the day, we are here. We're here to talk about this stuff and everything related to it. So we are going to talk about the Chelsea news today. So a few things to talk about on this nice little cozy 1 hour show, as some might like to call it. But obviously topics to talk about, of course, we are going to discuss Xavi Simons. Let me obviously talk a little bit about him, my thoughts and opinions on the player, of course. We'll also discuss a little bit more about Nicolas Jackson. Where is his potential destinations it could be? Obviously, some recent news about him to Manchester United has obviously come up. We'll discuss maybe Aston Villa as well. And obviously, Renato Veiga on his way to be sold, it looks like, to Atletico Madrid. We'll discuss that and much more today. But of course, what do I always ask? As always, please make sure to like, share, subscribe. Make sure to tell a friend to tell a friend. Helps me out and helps the channel out at the end of the day. Always only makes us bigger, better, and stronger. So helps me out, please. Much appreciated. I am almost at 3K subscribers, so it'd be very helpful for you guys if you could help me out at the end of the day as well. So much appreciated. Of course, a lot of people are feeling, already I can see it. A lot of people are very much, you know, what's the word I'm looking? What's the term I'm looking for? You know, they're rabid dogs right now. You know what I mean? They go, you know what I mean? That's what it's like me right now in the chat. Talk about certain player. We will discuss and we will start on this certain player because on this channel we don't go with the slow route because I just don't feel like that's something that I can do per se. That's not my style. If that makes sense. So let's actually start that topic and with a little bit of a bish, a bash, and a nice little bong. Let's get into it, of course. So I always thought this was big for some reason, but maybe I was just lying to myself. But let's start, of course, with this one. Let me make this a little bit big. I like this, nice and big. All right, let's go. So, of course, let's start obviously with a bit of the news that came out this morning because this is where we need to really start. And obviously, Xavi Simons was getting reported on yesterday, actually, funnily enough, right? So, Xavi Simons was reported on yesterday, as many of you guys know, right? And we then obviously started to get this news today from Atletico, of course. That's Florian Plettenberg, for those who don't know. And that was that Chelsea have started talks with Xavi Simons' camp. We then obviously get a bit of further news. What's it called? In regards to in regards to it, which was that again, Chelsea are working on an agreement with Xavi Simons. Talks taking place this evening. Leipzig wants 60 million, while Chelsea would like to play less, right? And then the news continues on. Breaking: Xavi Simons is open to joining Chelsea after talks. Tomorrow, clubs will start discussing the fee. Depends also on outgoings for Chelsea, right? So that's the next thing to talk about. You know what I mean? Simons is thought to be open to move to Chelsea. Arsenal are believed to have also registered an interest, but it is Chelsea who are currently rated the most attractive club of the English options, right? We then obviously get Bobby Vincent, another reliable reporter from Football London, of course. He says Chelsea are in talks with super agent Ali Barat over Simons. Now, that's pretty much, I think, the vast majority of the news has come out today, other than obviously maybe this one. Xavi Simons is Chelsea's next target in the market. Simons is interested in Chelsea product in the next days, talks between clubs and price tag. That's pretty much the news in regards to the player, of course, right now. Obviously, if you are going to be discussing the player, one of the things I do want to talk about, of course, is obviously his statistics, his stats, which we'll get into, of course, but just from a genuine eye test sort of situation. If you're going to bring in a guy like Xavi Simons, realistically, Christopher Nkunku has to be moved on, right? So what I mean by that is quite simple. Christopher Nkunku and him, I would argue, are both 10s. They're like, I think Xavi is a bit more creative of a 10 than Nkunku is, in my personal opinion. But he's good with the ball. He's a great driver of the ball, and can make a good pass. He's a good shooter. I think he's got an overall game, right? But again, Xavi Simons has not really reached maybe what some would say the heights that maybe people expect. Again, this guy was in the La Masia Academy. He went to PSG. He then went on loan, obviously, as many of you know, to PSV Eindhoven. Him and Madueke actually used to play quite regularly. Last little fun fact that not many people know about. Again, he then obviously went to RB Leipzig, had a great season there. This season hasn't been great for a number of reasons at the end of the day. But again, I just come back to a natural comment that I thought about for a while now, which is that what if I'm going to be bringing another type of this type of 10, right? What am I looking for to add to the team, right? And I think for me, right now, for Chelsea Football Club, creation is not an issue right now, right? Because fundamentally, our team can create. Yes, maybe the creation I'll probably be more so worried about, and I'm sure Chat would agree with me here, is more so when we're trying to create for a gap, in my personal opinion, because it seems that the team, the players themselves have not really, kind of gotten used to Delap, a guy that can actually shoot the ball into the back of the net in the box. So again, that's something more so I would like to hope with tactics, with the manager, with being around Delap. We can change that in my personal opinion, right? But that is the one thing, I would be worried about. Now, is Xavi Simons that answer? That a guy that's obviously he's played with Sesko before at PSV Eindhoven. He played with I forgot his name. His name at PSV, the PSV striker. He used to play he actually played at Barca for like half a season too. His name escapes me, but essentially he's played with like big strikers like that as well. So maybe they're trying to bring in a guy that can complement the likes of a Delap, right? That can help create for a Delap. And that's the only thing I can really think of. Yeah, if you're trying to bring a Xavi Simons, you're more so worried about you want a guy that can help to do striker creation. In my personal opinion, He can be an option on the left too, right? Which is something that I know the club I've been looking at. Again, if we're talking about experience, right, you need someone that has some level of experience there, a bit more competent there on that wing. Yeah, again, Gittins, with all due respect, still a young lad, very raw talent, still needs time to develop. So I think for me personally, I just look at that. I'm like, do they see Xavi Simons as that type of guy to do that job? Now, on the Bridge Nation, we are also a very objective football club, right? And that's one thing I will say as well. Listen, Chelsea FC agent, Super Agent FC. That's what I'm gonna say too. And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring out Super Agent FC is that I didn't know that Ali Brown was the guy that was the super agent for both the Conor Gallagher deal, um, the deal for Madueke, right, and all these other things. So for me, again, you have to listen. If it smells like this, if the way the club is moving like this, I also don't. I also worry with Xavi Simons. I think this is a much more of a fair take to have, yeah, which is that you have to be a little worried here. Is that are we maybe entering a Felix situation? Now Xavi Simons is not Felix because he's actually playing against the RB Leipzig. Plays. I think he's a good player. Still needs. I think he still has a levels to reach, in my personal opinion. But are we not? Are we not worried here that this could turn out to be a Joao Felix situation where maybe the manager doesn't want the player, he then doesn't play that many games, and then you run the risk of a scenario where all you've done is just save the player from being at RB Leipzig, and you brought us a problem similarly to what happened with Joao Felix right now, where you're going to be what's it called? What's what I'm looking for? Trying to move this guy on, but you can't move him on because he's maybe transfer fees not that high. So that's the one thing. Yeah, I do want to obviously push some level of caution. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Some level of caution. So that's why I want to bring him up. Unless this is a club target and this is something that Morrison's going to give this guy a chance to play and play some level of consistent football, then I hope this does not turn into a situation like this. That's what I'm going to say initially. Secondly, I'm going to answer. That's a good point, Lucas Costa. Good point, Victor Boy Lucas. And secondly, EPL Turf brings up a good question here. Why do we need him? It's becoming an addiction. Directors need to go to rehab. Fair enough. I think my question, I don't know if you listen to me, EPL Turf. I think my thing is they probably are looking for an attacker that can help create for particularly in the central area. I think even in the wing area, if you're going to play him in that left-hand role, that can help to facilitate a guy like a Dilap. And I think he can do a good job in doing that, in my personal opinion. He can create himself. He's a great ball carrier, right? In my personal opinion, too. He's a great passer, too. So you probably want all of these other stuff included, right? In this total package that you're trying to bring in. And maybe you're saying, Xavi Simons is going to be a cheap option for us. It's probably going to cost you, what, £50 million? He seems like he's happy to come here. It looks like the wages are going to be quite good for you as well. So I don't know necessarily if it's that's what I'm looking for. It's not necessarily a no-brainer per se. In my personal opinion, though, if I'm looking for if I am going to be bringing another attacker, I have to be bringing in again another shooter. In my personal opinion. Now, yes, he's a good shooter. In my personal opinion, but the reason why I've wanted Morgan Rodgers the vast majority of the time was I want someone that can carry the ball and that can shoot the ball, right? Because that's what we need in the team. I think all of us here, right? Because if you look at who we are linked to, right, in my personal opinion, Eze, Eze and Rodgers are good with are good at scoring. They've got a lot of scoring ability. They can do that consistently, and that's something that I think we've lacked a lot more, in my personal opinion. Right? We need to make sure we have guys that can score. Right? One of the things that I think that hurt us as well was that if you look at the way our goals were tallied up, there wasn't enough goals overall across the pitch, and you probably want guys that can score 10 goals, 15 goals, maybe get you a nice little 5-10 assists. Now, I think with Xavi Simons, my opinions are very neutral. I personally would have wanted Rodgers if you're going to bring in someone, in my personal opinion, because I think the manager knows him. I think he suits the system a lot more. And I think for me, I want more of a goal scoring threat. But in terms of Xavi Simons himself, I have no issues with bringing him in. But again, I think the question becomes, I'm thinking about this now. If you bring in Xavi Simons, you have to make sure Christopher and Kunku is out of the door, because for me, they're very like-for-like players. And I think the other question also, I think this is another question, and I'm going to ask this to everyone here. Guys, are we not Obviously, within Kunku, it didn't work out, right? But you're bringing a player that's very similar to Christopher Nkunku. So are we not worried yet that it's not worked out already with Nkunku? How is it going to work out now with this manager? Does that make sense, right? So I do want to I don't want to obviously bring up that school of thought because I think not many people are also thinking about that as well. Like that is something that we should be worried about. We should be thinking about, and that should be in the back of our mind as to how is he going to work. Because I don't think a lot of people are thinking about how is he going to work in the team. So let me hear some of your thoughts, please. Please let me know your thoughts, your opinions. I want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are. End of the day, man, this is a channel where we listen to our fellow commenters. So please do comment and let me hear what your thoughts are before I start going over his stats. So let's make sure to make that happen, please. So what do you think about that? I think I've said it before. I'm very fairly neutral on him. Playmore, Sermon, Salmi, is that you? I honestly doubt I can't lie because if you look at the examples, Simmons, Ahmed, what's it called? Aki, you can't just buy anything. Fair enough. Simmons, different training. Lamasia Simmons is better substitute for basketball. That's a good point. Smash up the likes. I hope Simmons links and Garnacho links. I actually still think Garnacho could still come through the door. I think for me, the way you need to look at it right now, yeah, is that if Garnacho, yeah, the way you're talking about Garnacho is that he's a cheap option. So I actually think, yeah, we're gonna get to Garnacho, but I have a theory on Garnacho and whether or not he's gonna come to the club or not as well, because I think that there's a nice little theory there, which I'm not sure if people are gonna like, but because you're seeing the way that United can't sell right now, I do think that there is a method to the madness that the club may be beginning to bring in. Which, listen, if you're a Garnacho fanboy, you're going to be in heaven. That's for sure. Let's bring up his FB ref, by the way. I want to have a look at his FB ref just in general. I know it's not a great, what's it called, indicator in terms of like player talent, but I just like to look at in general just the stats and see who you want. Who would you prefer, Ahmed? I think ideally you probably have to say Xavi Simons only because of the fact that I think the reality is, guys, that you probably want at some level of. I think Xavi Simons right now is much better quality than the Garnacho. I think again, yes, the Garnacho fit the system. Does Garnacho fit the way that we play as a team? Yes, but the reality is again that you want someone that can work for the here and now, and that's something that we need. I don't listen. I wouldn't be so. I don't think about Jackson per se, but I think Garnacho he's such a cheap option. If the rumor 30 million is true, that I think if you're Chelsea, they're gonna Chelsea's a greedy club, sadly. So be ready for some greediness. That's all I will say in regards to that. Let me bring this one up for you. Give me a sec. Share this tab instead. So this is obviously Xavi Simons in particular. Let me make sure. Listen, I look really small today. Yeah. So this is obviously Xavi Simons again. He's 22 years old. This is apparently his current contract. So that's roughly run about, if I'm not mistaken, 100k a week. He's on basically. You can probably bust him up to 20, 120, 140, something in around that range. Again, if you look at him in the league, 10 goals, 6 assists. He's exceeding his expected goals. He's exceeded, he's met his obviously his assist levels as well. If you just look at his in general scouting, of course, he's in the 78th percentile in terms of non-penalty goals. He has a very high shot creating accent, which again, if we are looking for some level of shooting from someone, a guy that's going to shoot, that's going to be doing that sort of thing, clearly is someone that likes the opportunity to shoot if he sees that goal in front of him. So again, very high actually. He's quite high, bro. It's like 4.71. That means he's taking a lot of shots, bro, per game. Essentially, that's almost 5 shots that he's taken. That he's creating so per game. And then again, if you look at his assist level, it's above average, but again, he's still excuse me. It's still something that he has to work on, in my personal opinion. So again, food for thought, something to think about as well. He's got a lot of passes that he attempts. He's got a low pass percentage, completion percentage. So very high progressive passes, which is again something that again, if he's gonna play in that left 10 role, he's gonna be a bit more of an inside forward guy that can help to pass, progress the ball fast with his passing as well. So again, with him, a lot of his thing is again with his passing, bro. Again, he's very tall too. He seems he can win his aerial duels. How tall is he? 1 second. 168. That's like what 6 foot, I think. So Alexa, what's 168 centimeters in feet?
From Topper.com. 168 centimeters are equal to approximately 5 feet and 6 inches.
What? There's no way that am I then he's the same height as me. Yeah, he's 6'2". He has to be. I was thinking that. I was like, so he's 5'6". He's 5'6", bro. That's actually legit. No way. That's crazy. That is actually kind of ridiculous that he's doing that at 5'10". That must mean his ability to jump is quite good, by the way. So you gotta give him a little bit of credit there, a bit of kudos to him in terms of the fact that he can do that and jump that quite high. So credit where credit is due. So just give me a sec, chat. I'm just gonna reduce this. But listen, at the end of the day, this is a guy that could be coming to the club. I want to hear from you. You know what I'm going to do? Give me a moment. Where's my YouTube? Now I'm gonna create start poll. Xavi Simons. I've said Xavi Simons. Yes, I know. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on him. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Please make sure to vote. I want to hear what people are saying. Are they for Xavi Simons? Do you want him in the team? Do you think he's gonna add anything to the team? That's what we want to hear from you guys today. So and again, this probably, by the way, realistically, will be your final signing in terms of the attack, in my personal opinion. Obviously, Garnacho may be an opportunity they look at maybe later in the window, but realistically, again, he is probably going to be your last main attacking signing, bro. This is like the guy that you probably want to bring up. So again, in my personal, I'm just checking something actually really quickly, but we move. But let's actually. Bro, Juve are doing something crazy, bro. I'm always here. They're always doing swap deals, bro. What's going on? But we move. But listen, let's actually talk about the next stuff we want to talk about. I don't have this much time. I have to be on American Waffle today. So Bridge Nation is going to be on American Waffle today. So make sure to tune in on that one. He will be cooking. He will be eating some barbecue chicken and everything like that. I'm going to listen. I'm going to talk about this topic because I like this topic in my personal opinion. And that is Nicolas Jackson. Now, in terms of reporting about Nicolas Jackson, this is as follows. We apparently, according to I am Rahman Osman, who reports a lot of stuff in regards to Chelsea, he's reporting that Chelsea rejected Napoli and he's rejected AC Milan, which is very interesting because I'll be real with you. He probably could. Again, who do they have in AC Milan? Santiago Jimenez. I'll be honest. With the way that I forgot my brother's name as well. Or the way that what's it called? The new AC manager. You know, my Mr. You know, I like to call him Turismo Bull. You know what I mean? One of the greatest defensive soldiers of all time, the greatest defensive coaches of all time. You know what I mean? My favorite. Listen, I love watching him. I love watching him, bro. You know what I mean? He's a joy to watch. He fills my heart, with joy watching games from him, bro. You know what I mean? Defense is king for this guy. My brother. My brother, bro. You listen, the Juve watches I used to do, when we used to have, my guy on as the manager. Mamma mia. You know what I mean? The thing is, if you did one little thing wrong, when he did everything, the way he used to go crazy off the flipping, was it called, on the sideline, was actually insane. And that is, of course, none other than my gaffer, Massimiliano Allegri. The thing about Allegri can play a two-striker formation if he wants to. It really is dependent again, on who he's playing. So I think for me, in my personal opinion, right, he probably would have started for Allegri. And the thing is, he's if you look at the strikers that Allegri's had, obviously he had R9, right, which is CR7, so I should say, not R9, CR7. He's had obviously Vlahovic previously. He's had I forgot the other strikers that have been at Juve right now off the top of my head. But essentially, guys, Jackson would be a great option there. You've got a Liao on the left. You've got obviously Chukwueze, Pulisic, these guys are great inside forwards, right? They can get off the wing, cut inside, and shoot really well, right? You've got good wingers in that regard, right? And so, I feel like a Jackson compared to Santiago Jimenez is great at holding. He can get the ball, do the little tan, can create for the wingers, bro. Right? He may not necessarily score a lot of goals, but he's gonna bring out the best out of your wingers, in my personal opinion. So, for me personally, I'm just a bit surprised that he's rejected 80 man because I think for me, he would actually start in 80 man, bro. He would start in 80 man, and I think from an overall team perspective, it would help improve that team massively, right? Napoli, I can somewhat hear in the sense that maybe if he believes that he can't get past, if he still thinks that Antonio Conte is going to put obviously Romelu Lukaku in front of him, but at the same time, this is the same. What's it called? This is the same Antonio Conte that plays a two-striker formation. You know what I mean? You can play the two striker formation. So for me, he could have been a Jackson and Romelu Lukaku duo at Napoli if that happened. So for me, again, I'm very surprised that he's rejected Italy because I think for me, him going to Italy would have been a very good career move for him because he would have been able to play a lot more football. I actually think he would have been a starter for both teams that have been mentioned. He would have got a regular game time, and he would have been under very good top and elite managers, bro. So for me personally, bro, it surprises me. You know what I mean? So it surprises me, in my personal opinion, that he has rejected those moves, right? Unless ADL has like fumbled his negotiating ability, then I do not understand why he's not trying to go to Napoli or AC Milan. Maybe it's a financial package that he's worried about, something of that sort. But for me personally, bro, I just look at the managers and types that are there. They bring out the best strikers. They're able to do that stuff as well. And so for me personally, I just look at that as an overall thing. And I'm like, it's kind of shocking from his perspective that he's rejected those two clubs. Now, another club that it seems that's not going to happen, like, is Manchester United. And I think the reason with Manchester United is quite simple again. If you look at Manchester United, guys, these guys can't sell. The fact that Barca has still been able to swindle a load of option to buy Rashford speaks volume. And that's not me cussing Rashford, by the way. This is me just being objective. How they were not being able to get a transfer fee for Rashford yet is shocking, by the way. Right? You then look at all these other players that have been allegedly been trying to move on. They can't get a fee for Garnacho. Apparently, this came out of Athletic just today that the move for Sancho to Juve is nowhere near done. You know what I mean? That's still miles away. Hoyland still cannot be moved on. A lot of the Deadwood players that you've spoken about cannot be moved on. So essentially, in my personal opinion, they can't sell players. So unless these guys financially are able to sell players, we ain't see anything happen. Now the next club, of course, I know HA just brought it up, which is Aston Villa is the next one. Now I think with Aston Villa, the thing that you have to look at is what's happening with Watkins. Are you saying that Watkins is staying, and then obviously you got Jackson as the number competing with him? What's happening there? What is the fee you're probably looking for Jackson? Are they going to pay that 18 million pounds that you were allegedly saying, which I don't believe is true? I generally think Chelsea will probably get around about 60 million pounds for Nicolas Jackson. That's just me being honest, being logical, being straight, right? And I know the club deep down know that that's also true. So I think for me, 60 M's is currently the going rate for Nicolas Jackson. And so I think for me, Aston Villa probably will reach that, probably pay that as well. So I think, again, we need to see what happens there. But as of now, I know he's saying Jackson is staying. I just think for me, I don't know why he's going to play, right? Because realistically, the two players that are going to get the most minutes interchangeably is going to be Liam Delap and then obviously João Pedro, right? If you bring in Xavi Simons now, Xavi Simons and Giti are your left wingers. In the 10, you've got Palma Esteval, right? On the right, you've got Neto, right? And then obviously you can put any other right winger there. obviously, that you want to mention that can play there as well, or even in the right 10 role. I can even maybe make the argument of the way we play at times that Gusto can do a job there too. So Nicolas Jackson, the spot's gone. So for me, and again, one thing I always want to emphasize now, yeah, is that if you look at the way the club has been talking this season, they've been doing what I like to call the sweet talk. You know what I mean? They call it sweet talk. What I mean by that essentially is that, last year you saw what they were doing. They're still doing it this season to an extent with some of these players, where they will tell them, we don't want you here, get out of the club. You know what I mean? We're gonna banish you from everything. They're hitting brief after brief after brief after brief. They're hitting you with no. You know what I mean? They're doing everything possible, bro, to make it known to that player, get the hell out. I just want peace for you, bro. You know what I mean? So we know how these guys act. And the thing is, as I said before, it worked effectively for some. Again, Conor Gallagher worked effectively for, even that I was not happy that happened, right? But it's not worked out effectively for others. Chalobah's a great example of that. That tanked his value. But the people wanted me or not, it tanked Chalobah's value, and only Crystal Palace came in for him. So again, they doing this new thing where they sweet talk the players. Yes, come on, mate. Sorry, mate. We got paid from this other club. It's quite a lot of money, mate. How about you think about it, bro? Is obviously if you don't want to go, we don't mind, bro. We don't mind. No, listen, it's the bid, bro. What are you saying? You know what I mean? That is the way they are trying to do stuff now. You know what I mean? They're doing the little, sorry, yeah, it's a lot of money there, mate. We don't want to obviously sell you, but it's a lot of money on the table here, mate. That's what they're trying to do now. They did the same with Madueke. They're doing now the same with Jackson. That's the way the club moves. Simple as that. So that's what I will say in that regard. I know that Lucas Costa talked about that. If Nico leaves, it's 7. Again, one of the things that people forget about is academy graduates, right? I think the club has been kind of making this push to have like academy players into the team. We saw it last year with Chimpong, Tariq George. They probably want to continue that flow where they can still bring in some younger academy guys that can hopefully, do a good job into the team, that can add to the team. So that's probably where I would probably make the argument for that the club is looking to try to do, in my honest opinion. Of course, again, I could be wrong, but that's the way I objectively see the club moving and trying to do stuff and make stuff happen. Oh, sorry about that, boys. But that's the way I look at it. And again, something to add to this year is that Xavi Simons has been added to the team. I still think, and this is my hot take, I still think Nkunku could probably still stay in the team. Even if Xavi Simons comes in, I think there's a universe where you can probably bring in, what's it called? What's his name? Sorry. Note. Dairyland. Thank you. But yeah, there's a universe, in my personal opinion, right, where you can bring in a Xavi Simons and then you have an Nkunku in the team, even though I don't think that's possible for a number of reasons that I've stated before. But the reality is, there's a real strong possibility of that occurring. So, because again, I think with Nkunku, the reality I'm thinking about right now is that I've not seen any bids. I've not heard anything right now in regards to him leaving the club either. So I have no idea what's going on with that brother, bro. Like, unless there's something crazy about to happen, then I don't know what's going on, bro. So maybe you guys can educate me. You know what I mean? Maybe you guys know something that I don't, but please do let me know. But yeah, we move, man. But listen, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your opinions. Please do let me know what your thoughts and opinions are in regards to this. But with Nicolas Jackson, it's time to go, bro. It's time to go, bro. That's just the way it's looking like right now. And let's talk about the next topic, which is my boy Renato Veiga. You know what I mean? The one that's on his way out, it seems, as well. Is this the voice of Stuart or Stanley? I mean, I actually did not think about that. Probably Stuart, because isn't Laura Stewart the guy that usually does the outgoings, from what I know. So so that's the thing I'll probably say. So again, we will see what happens there at EPL stuff, but I'll probably say Lawrence Stewart in my personal opinion. But again, I've never actually heard Lawrence Stewart speak before. I think I've heard what's it called, with Stanley speak, but never Lawrence Stewart. So we'll see. But let me bring up, of course, the next guy. The guy that should have been our left back up, but he's not going to be our left back up, I'm afraid. What? Ndoi to what? Ndoi to Nottingham Forest. Yo, that's actually not, that's not bad. That's a cheeky move, you know. Bit of a cheeky move. Oi, Ndoi and Bakayoko in that team. Yo, they might have upgraded. They've upgraded, you know. Yo, if they bring in Johan Bakayoko and they bring in Ndoi into that team, they've upgraded, bro. They've actually upgraded that team. That's actually whoa. Forest are moving. That's actually W's. Obviously, losing Morgan was right. It's obviously problematic, but Ndoi in the team, you bring in Johan Bakayoko. Ooh, wait. Oh, whoa. I'm actually wow. I'm actually like flabbergasted at that one. Yo, that's W's. That you have to give credit where credit is due. But listen, let's talk about obviously Renato Veiga. Let's go back. Let's get back on topic. You know what I mean? Bridge Nation. You know, doing too much glazing there. But listen, let's actually talk about Renato Veiga. Obviously, as we know, you see that Atletico Madrid are actually winning the race now to get in Renato Veiga. Again, he would actually fit in that team, left side of centre back. They play a back three vast majority of the time anyway. He can even play in that back two as well. So again, he's a guy that fits into that team, very versatile, can do a job there at the end of the day. As I said before, the Chelsea want a package of around about 40 million euros, which is roughly 35 million to 32 million pounds. Again, big thing for him. He's already agreed to terms of the Atletico Madrid, it seems. And again, I think it's a good career move for him, to be honest. Again, he's probably going to play regular football there. They need a lot of centre back cover in that situation as well. They've already got Jimenez there, who's not been a great player in my personal opinion. He's been a good servant this season, but you can improve upon him. They got a long lay. They can improve upon him. And again, he's a guy that improves upon that team. So him and Leonard in that two, I think is very good. Is a very good centre back partnership in my personal opinion. So again, big moves going on Atletico Madrid. They obviously need to improve on the team. They need some firepower. They need some manpower. That's something that really hurt them in their bid this season to when they were trying to win the league, and that hurt them a lot. So again, this is a guy that can add to the team. That's definitely going to be adding quality as well. So listen, hopefully we can get that money for him. If we get 40 million euros for him, by the way, that's crazy. If I'm not mistaken, I think we brought him for something in that similar region, right? I think we brought him for like something like 12 million, right? So let's go to transfer market. Renato Veiga. So why would I need to get translated, mate? What? So we brought him for 40 million euros and we're about to sell him for 40 million euros, boys. That's like a what 26 million euro profit that you've essentially made. Now, I'm not here to be a profiteer and glaze up profiteer nation, but listen, you have to give credit where credit truth. Kubi to Leipzig. When did this happen? I don't know if you'd go back to Leipzig, you know. What's the point of him going back to Leipzig? What would be the point of him going back to Leipzig, honestly? You know what I mean? What is this? I'm literally looking at this right now, boys. Yeah, I'm literally looking at this. One of my big issues right now, yeah, is that I think from a valuation standpoint, yeah, some of the values you put on some players make sense. Renato Veiga can make 40 million for him for. Disasi 30 million makes sense. Who's someone else that I'm thinking about that I'm not aware of? Help me out, chat here. Help me out here a little bit, chat. I don't even know what to say at this point. But listen, that's pretty much, I think, the vast majority of the main news stories. If there's any other main news stories that you guys think I'm obviously forgetting about, please do let me know. But in this regard, I think another thing to talk about just quickly is Garnacho, something I want to talk about heavily. One of the reports that's come out today from I think it's Telegraph Dakar, is that I think a 30 million to 40 million range, but essentially the 30 million range, right, for the player. So I think for me, Bridge Nation take right now, you heard it here first. I actually think, yeah, we're going to wait a little bit longer. We're going to wait late in the window. Yeah, and then you know what we're going to do? We're going to essentially do the Sancho situation that we did to United. We're going to come in, unless some other club decide, you know, we're going to come in here, we're gonna crash it on them and stuff like that. What's gonna probably happen is that the club is gonna basically be like, you know what, mate, we need you. Come on in, mate. Come on, let's make it happen. Loan with obligation to buy, and it'll be for the same similar, it'll be about loan, but for 30 million pounds. That's what's gonna happen, right? And then if the club does that, I'll be honest with you, that's smart. Yeah, and that's what's gonna happen. No club's gonna buy him. Unless Chelsea does that thing which they did last time, which is that they do a loan with obligation. Watch that space. I don't think it goes to Villa Cole Palmer fundamentally because, again, as I've said many times before, I think it's about the finances, bro. You need to think about the finances, right? If they want Jackson, they need to sell. They're gonna get Jackson with that money. They need to sell afterwards. But they're in some FFP situations as well, so they want to make sure they've got the vast majority of the FFP sorted out. So, in my personal opinion, there's no chance, in my personal opinion, of that, occurring. But that's just me. I think, but listen, Star Slayer, I know for a lot of players, just give me a sec, guys, I'm just fixing my camera, but for a lot of people, they don't want Garnacho. But as I said before, from a team perspective, the managers, they want him, he suits the team, they see value in him, he adds value, he sorts the position that we need as well. So, listen, realistically, if you can get him the last minute for a certain value, bro, I'll be honest with you, boys. It makes sense. I'll be honest. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, boys. It generally makes a lot of sense. So for me personally, I have no issues with it. So again, it makes a lot of sense in my personal opinion. So people can hate on it, people can not hate up on it, but the reality is it makes sense. The logics, and everything like that. But what's going to happen again? I'll say this before, will be like a loan with an option to buy. That's what it's going to be, bro. But the thing is that I think the Chelsea is only waiting to see what the clubs come in. But I think for me, what they're trying to, this is why, again, I say to you guys before, no, it's Xavi Simons is being done quickly because I think they want the player and they know there's guys waiting in the wings. That's the only reason why. So for me personally, if you think about it from that perspective, that's why Xavi Simons is getting done. And to be honest, you probably think that entirely of Chelsea, we are owned by super agents too. So you know what the super agents are like, bro. They want their favorite paid in full automatically. So that's probably what's gonna happen. Let's give me one. Big up to our boy CA Matthew, hope you're doing well. Big up to Muli. Big up to everyone. Yeah, no, so just asking a little question there. Because I think someone's at the door. But listen, one thing I will say, and I'm gonna say this again in terms of Garnacho, I'm willing to say 60-40 he comes to the club. 60% comes to the club, 40% doesn't come to the club, in my personal opinion. But I'm putting there gun to my head, 60-40. Ahmed was brokering the Xavi Simons deal. Nah. Listen, I brokered the Madueke deal. You said, was it called? Who said, yeah, I was not brokering that one. So you never know, man. The streets need to know that, of course. But so listen with me. But listen, I feel we're just gonna end it here. I'm gonna be on obviously Al Hour. Make sure to come on there. Make sure not Al Hour, sorry. American Waffle. Make sure you're there. Make sure you're square, of course. But let me obviously just before we do that, right? Let me before we do that, 89% of you, right? Wow. So how many votes is that? That's basically what? If this what? That's 8, 7, 4. That's basically what? 28 of you out of the 30. Oh, sorry, not 28, 27 of you want Xavi Simons in the club. Wow, I know if people get Xavi Simons and Yildiz because I think the reality is, bro, that's overkill. That would be overkill, in my personal opinion. You're you know what I mean? You're destroying the sauce there. There's too many cooks. Too many cooks. I think it's probably Xavi Simons. That's the way the club is moving. That's the way the club is wanting to make stuff happen. So as such, it will more than likely be Xavi Simons that will be the player that will be coming to the club, in my personal opinion. And I actually will tell you right now, Xavi Simons will be completed this week. Listen, with the way the club moves, which you guys all know, I know this club very well. I know the way this club likes to react. I know the way this club likes to move. This deal will be done by the end of the week, bro. I promise you that one, free of charge. Yeah, end of the week, you're going to be seeing this guy. Hi, I'm Xavi Simons. You know, I am 21 years old. I am from Netherlands. That was a terrible Netherlands accent. That was 0 out of 10 Netherlands. You know what? I should quit the game. That is criminal behavior. You know what, man? That was so bad that, you know, yeah, man, I deserve this. That was actually a terrible accent, bro. Fair enough. But the thing is, again, this is what I'm like, yeah. You lose Jackson, you lose Thingy. But then, listen, guys, you all seem to think about this, yeah, from like a number standpoint. Yeah, let's look at this from a number standpoint. Let's say, yeah, I bring in Yildiz and Simons. I've got Yildiz. Let me do this, yeah. Yildiz, Simons, Palmer, Neto, Esteval, Liam Delap, João Pedro, Pedro Neto. Who else am I forgetting in that list? Jamie Gittins. That's 9 guys that I've got. You know what I mean? That's 9 guys that I've got. Yildiz is a starter in any top team. Xavi Simons, realistically, is also a starter in any top team. Palmer is a starter automatically in any top team. You need a striker that's going to start in that team, no matter what. So unless you're saying you're going to do something crazy, you go Palmer, Yildiz. So you do Palmer, Yildiz, Xavi Simons, and then you do someone on top. Then you got then that works. If you do something like Yildiz starter, Xavi Simons starter, Palmer starter, then you got the striker and Thingy. Then you say Neto's on the bench, João Pedro and Delap obviously can just interchange whenever you feel like you need someone, right? So realistically, again, I just look at this and I think about this. Yeah, I look at it. Are you going to be able to keep everyone happy? Pedro Neto, are you going to be able to tell him stay on the bench after what he's had a really great end to the season, a strong end to the season? Are you willing to play Yildiz over him? Are you willing to play Xavi Simons over him? That's what you have to ask yourself as well. These are the pertinent questions you've got to ask yourself. And so unless you're saying the starting line is going to be something of Yildiz, Simons, and then Palmer, and then obviously one of Liam Delap or Pedro Neto up front, and the rest of them are going to be holding bench. Then you've got also Esteval who wants to play number 10. Are you going to be able to give it enough game time to play? See, so there's a lot of questions that you've got to ask yourself there where, you know, all of this stuff is going to happen, but are you going to have enough space for all these guys to actually fit in and make a difference? That's what you have to ask yourself, chat. That is what you have to ask yourself, in my personal opinion. And if you don't think you can, then we're in trouble. But then, listen, it's all well and good to say survive and die. You know what I mean, Lucas Costa? I think it's all well and good to say survive and die, but the problem with survive and die, and I've said this before, is then how's your bank account going to survive? You know what I mean? Realistically, in the era we live in, you also need to make a profit, make some money on these players. How are you going to be able to make money on these players if you're doing this sort of method? Question you've got to ask yourself as well. But listen, if I'm buying, for example, Yildiz right now, he's like 60 billion, for example, right? If he has like an average season where he doesn't play that many games, he's not going to be worth 60 million again, boys. We're worth probably something like 40 to 45 million. So you lost 15 million pounds. You're not going to be able to resell them again for 60 million. The way our club works, bro, these guys love to make profit too. Again, this is why I always come back to food for thought. We need to think about this stuff sometimes a bit more logically too, because otherwise, yeah, we fall into the trap that I've said before, where we don't think about anything, and then bish bash bong. Guess what, bro? We are in trouble. What is it called? No, but the thing is, CA Mafia. You know what the difference is between Madueke and Yildiz, for example? Because I want Yildiz. You know, I'm a big fan of Yildiz CA Mafia, right? Madueke was 29.7 million, bro. You sold it for 52 million. That's the point, right? That the reason why I'm using Madueke is a good example here. You bought Madueke for low and you sold it for high. You're buying Yildiz for high. So in any shape or form, it has to be sold for either equal or higher, in my personal opinion. So for me, this is what you have to think about, bro. Because when you're buying these players for this certain amount of price, then you kind of like fall into that trap that you don't want it to fall into. Fair enough. I mean that's a fair point, CA Mafia. But I just think, listen, if I'm bringing players into the team, I want them to succeed. I want to make sure that there's an environment there where they can succeed and produce the best level of football for me that I want them to produce for. That I want them to produce for myself. So that's what I would say to you, bro. But we move. But listen, this has been a great discussion, I have to say, man. I was not expecting to get this interested towards the end about this sort of thing. But listen, we are going to be rating to American Waffle. Fair enough. That I hear. I get that argument. So you want to hear me disagree with that argument toward the end of the day. I think that's a fair argument. But we move. But listen, as always, I've been your host, Mr. Bridge Nation. You got to be good to American Waffle. I want you to spam Simmons Nation. Simmons Nation. That's what you need to do. Spam Simmons Nation for me, please. Thank you very much. And we are out. 2 cut out, please. Thank you.